In this TechCorner video, I'm going to explore light meters. Whenever I mention light meters to other photographers, the most common response I get is, I don't use a light meter. The truth is, if you have ever taken a photograph, you have used a light meter. Allow me to explain. To start with, light meters come in two types, reflective and incident. All modern cameras have a reflective light meter built in. This is how your camera can take a photo at the correct exposure. Now, if you shoot in auto or semi-auto, that is A or S mode or AV or TV mode, depending on the make of your camera, it is the camera's built-in light meter that determines what the correct exposure should be. When you shoot in manual mode and you see something like this is the reading from your light meter telling you if you are overexposed, underexposed, or just right. But these meters are far from perfect. Your camera's light meter has no idea what you are photographing. All it sees is how much light is coming into the camera, and it tells you where you need to be to get an 18% gray average exposure. Now, let's take a step back for a minute and talk about 18% gray. Without getting overly technical with maths and equations, 18% is the midpoint between black and white on a logarithmic curve, which is why it is considered that an average exposure of 18% gray is a correct exposure. How this works is, if you were to convert your image to black and white and calculate the average brightness across all the pixels in the image, with 0% being pure black and 100% being pure white, you want the answer to be 18%. This is also why gray exposure cards are 18% gray. In general, this works well and your camera gets a correct exposure in most cases. The issue with reflective light meters is they are reading the light that is reflected from everything in the scene, so reading is affected by the colors in the scene. Where you start running into problems is where you are shooting very dark scenes, for example at night, or if you are shooting a bright scene like a studio shoot on a white background or in snow. In those situations, your camera is still trying to get you 18% gray, so a night scene will be overexposed and a bright scene will be underexposed. Let's take a look at this example where we have a black card and a white card. If I fill the frame with the black card and take a photo, you can see that it comes out gray as the camera is overexposing the black to 18% gray. Now if I fill the frame with a white card and take a photo, it also comes out gray. This time because the camera is underexposing white to be 18% gray again. It is only when both cards are splitting the frame in half that a correct exposure is obtained. Now you could change your metering mode from reading the entire frame to a spot meter, which will give you much better results. However, you still need to be very careful where your spot meter is reading the exposure from. Consider a scenario where you are photographing a bride in a white wedding dress. If the spot meter falls on the white dress when you press the shutter, it will try to make the white dress 18% gray, therefore significantly underexposing your photo. In the same scenario, if the spot meter falls on the groom's black suit, the camera will try to make the black suit 18% gray, significantly overexposing your image, just like you saw happen with the black card and the white card. So although the 18% gray average is what you want, the camera can get fooled into giving you an incorrect exposure based on either a dominant shade in the scene or the shade where the spot meter lands. Take this image where I photographed a magician wearing a black suit and standing in front of a black background. Shooting in auto mode would have resulted in an overexposed image because the photo is predominantly black. To overcome this issue, cameras have an exposure compensation button, which I've explained in detail in a separate video and which can be used to tell the camera to underexpose or overexpose by a certain number of stops. So it is imperative, now that you know how your camera meter works, that you are aware of what it is you are photographing so you can adjust your settings accordingly. If you don't know about stops of light or how stops of light work, make sure you check out my exposure triangle video, which I will link in the description below. So for those who have transitioned to manual mode, you will also have to be aware of this so you can compensate when reading your light meter. Now, the advantage of being able to shoot in manual mode is that as long as the light doesn't change, once you have your exposure set, you can frame and reframe the shot as much as you like and the exposure will always be perfect. provided the light remains the same. If you are shooting in auto or semi-auto modes, you could end up in a situation where your light meter is getting different readings depending on your framing, resulting in every shot having a different exposure. The other type of light meter, used mainly by professionals, is an incident meter. With an incident meter, it measures how much light is falling directly on your subject. An incident meter doesn't care what colors your subject is wearing, what color the background is, it just cares about how much light is falling on it. Incident light meters also allow you to meter flash and studio strobes and balance lights, which a reflective meter can't do. TTL is an exception and can meter some flash, but I will cover TTL in a separate video. Although incident light meters give you much more accurate exposure readings, they can be impractical to use in general everyday photography, as you need to physically meter the light where your subject is standing, dial in the settings into your camera, and take the picture before the light changes. You can see how annoying that would get if you were trying to take photos at a social gathering or an outdoor event using an incident light meter. So like everything in photography, both types of meters have their advantages and disadvantages, and both are tools suited to a specific task. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, and it just comes down to you. Thanks for watching this TechCorner video. Please comment below with any questions you have, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos.